Howdy, folks. Happy Friday. Thank God it's Friday. We got a couple games to discuss, a couple teams that are bowed out of the bubble, and a couple teams that I think are in store for some big offseason changes. If they don't, I think they're just going to continue to repeat what they've done the last couple. Oh, hold on a second. Damn it. In store. I'm recording the show as we go along here, and of course I would need to hear my voice in the background. Anyway, Russ, start with the pre-show.
I mean, Mike plays it usually other times of the day, usually not during the show.
He needs to hear himself talk. Let's go.
My arm is hurting.
So on Sunday, the WWE is going to have SummerSlam, and they're using some new technology. They're not having real fans, and they're going to be doing it at the Amway Center in Orlando, so they're not doing it at their place. And what I've gathered from an interview is, and maybe like a screenshot is, it looks like they're putting in a lot of screens and seats, and they're going to let like 1,000 fans at a time virtually sit in those screens.
Oh my God.
And probably scream out anything they want, because I can't imagine they're going to have much control over a 7-second delay. They're calling it Thunderdome. I may tune in because I can get it for free just to see how much of a disaster it could be or how great it could be. They're either going to set the bar now for every other league, and NFL included, to do something more exciting without fans, or it's going to fail miserably. And I'm in the middle, man. I don't know which way it's going to go.
I'm thinking of that Mel Brooks line. We're going to have a wedding or a hanging. Either way, we're going to have a lot of fun.
Yep, it is. It's going to be like that.
10 years ago, I would have bet $50 that one of the first things yelled over the monitor would be Baba Booey. But I don't know about that anymore. But, hey, all I know is okay. When it comes to sporting events, we know that the social distancing situation, we know that no fans is the reality. There's been some talk about Major League Baseball letting in fans later in the year, closer to the playoffs. I don't know whether they're going to be able to put 10,000 people in Yankee Stadium, and have them distance and that being safe. I don't know. All I know is it alters the perception of everything when there's no reaction of the crowd. And I'm not getting political here, but just watching the Democratic National Convention yesterday and watching Biden up in front of nobody, and it felt so weird to see.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way. You're right. That's the way things are now. There was a big comment from Adam Silver this morning, though. He may be pushing back that December 1st, and I think Gary Bettman's going to follow, because his feeling is he's still going to try and have fans next year, because he's probably feeling the financial pressure now where he wasn't earlier. And what the hell is a month, right? If you could actually have a vaccine in there. And I think the NHL is going to follow suit. I don't believe they'll start December 1st.
He did that, I think, when it relates to the draft conversations they were just having with the lottery yesterday.
Right.
He made that comment with Rachel Nichols. And look, we thought, like I said, I thought January 1 Winter Classic was going to open the season. Mm-hmm. Right now, obviously December, but that doesn't give a ton of time in between the end of the prior season and start of the new one. And if they want to wait the fans, and then also if more news comes out that a vaccine might be ready closer to the turn of the year, that may also drive the decision as to when to start the next season.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I do know one thing, Anthony, is the fact that if there isn't a vaccine, they can't do a bubble for a regular season. So that's impossible. So they're going to
they'd have to really kind of, they have to bite the bullet in this circumstance and just wait. And you have to. It stinks, but you're going to I don't see any other way. I don't see any other way of going for it to be a safe enough situation for them to have people back in the seats. The minute Silver made his comment yesterday, that immediately flashed to the NHL and said, if Silver says that feels a little aggressive.
Yeah,
that date feels aggressive. Then the NHL is going to feel exactly. They're going to feel pretty much the same way, I think.
And I'll mention this in the pre-show because I don't really want to go like long about it, but the comments that Mike Milbury made yesterday during the game, he's clearly a dinosaur. He's clearly at times an
archaic views is what I've been tweeting.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, do I understand what he was saying? Yeah. You don't say that stuff. You don't say it. It's just
at this point, Mike, it's just not you can't hide them. It's not like a coach.
Right.
It's not. It's like before you could, CBC would be able to sort of shuttle off coach's corner. But then we saw the blowback that happened to Cherry. Those guys at this point now, most people don't. I think most people watching don't want to. Certainly don't want to listen to it.
And it's not that someone
nightly basis. I mean, you get him in between periods, and that's that.
Right.
Now you got to hear him the entire game. He's utterly unenthusiastic about what he's doing.
Yeah.
It feels like he's asked to be color commentator. Doesn't really want to be. That's what I get out of it. What listening to him.
And then he makes a demeaning comment about women being a distraction.
To me, it
there's
almost
a ton
seems
of
like
female viewers. That's the part that I think NBC has to look at.
It almost seems like a passive-aggressive attempt to tell NBC, I don't want to be doing color commentary. That's what it feels like to me. The way he's acting.
No, I just think that was dumb.
Nonchalant.
I just think it was dumb. I think that's the way his brain works. But I want to point out, it's not because he's old. I mean, Doc Emmerich is older and he's fine. This is just the way Mike Milbury thinks. And I think it's finally caught up to him in that he hasn't changed, but the world has.
But you can't hide again when you're doing color for a game. You can't hide it. You got a short window when he's on set doing analysis. It's a short burst. You don't have a lot, a window of time. In this case, he had a 5 overtime game, and I mean he couldn't wait for that thing to be over with. And
that's true.
He comes up with the comment about going to a 3-on-3 and shootout. Sorry, Mike. I mean, get a cup of coffee.
All right, let's get started here. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Friday, August 21st, 2020.
I'm Jan Levine.
I'm Anthony Mingioni.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. And I just saw it in the corner here. Sorry about that. We were just doing the intro. Intro.
I was listening to your debate there. Pretty good.
Yeah, we can barely hear you.
You can barely hear me. Great.
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
Yeah.
1 second. Ignore me.
Uh-oh. All right.
A good look at epidermis there, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Here. Talk to the hand. All right. Well,
that was the epidermal camera.
No, now wait. Hold on.
You're just muted now.
I can unmute him. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh no, you've muted yourself, and it says I can't unmute you. So try to call in again. Oh, there you go. Okay. All right. You're very.
Am I okay? Do I sound okay?
You sound real distant.
Can't hear you, Eck.
Well, I feel distant.
Barely.
I feel distant.
Let me try something. Let me get rid of the camera. Let me just hold it up to the phone like this. Is this okay?
That's better.
Now we can hear you.
Just do that.
I'm just not gonna see my beautiful face today. Is that all right?
We'll live.
Yeah.
It's a throwback show.
I know.
It's podcast versus video podcast.
Eck with no face.
That's right.
It's Milbury going back in history.
Yeah, I know. This is like my anonymous thing. I'm going for it. It would have been my nightmare scenario in the past. But I like what Anthony was saying for a second there about I think Milbury is trying to say get me the hell off these shows. I agree with you 100%. I thought the same thing.
It just seems throughout his lack of enthusiasm, he's been passive. It's been very sort of passive aggressive about the whole thing, and he's just gonna be like, I'm gonna keep saying stuff until somebody until
they throw me out. I know. I 100% agree with you. I really do.
But the problem is, Eck, is that the road he's going down in terms of his commentary, especially the one yesterday, is going to get him fired because he's talking stupid crap. And it's like, you don't talk about women that way as a distraction as he's talking about. I mean, shut the hell up.
Yeah, really. No, that's ridiculous. It is absolutely. And it's funny because, there's not a whole lot we can pick on, everything's been great in all these broadcasts. And it's and, I was talking to somebody and I always have this theory that there always has to be something wrong, we always have to find something wrong. It's just the human nature thing to to look for that. Like you always need an enemy. I always felt like whenever I was in a classroom.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know. But you're kind of the opposite.
This is like a big zit that you're trying to hide, and you can't do it.
Yeah, you need an antagonist. Everybody needs an antagonist, and Milbury might be that antagonist for the hockey world right now. But he's just going out of his way, like you said, Ant, to just make this worse and worse and worse and worse.
After a while, it becomes a zero-sum game eventually. If you continue to do, and that's why I said in my comment last night, he keeps pushing and pushing. And to me, it just to me signals a passive aggressive kind of I really don't want to do this. He's been unenthusiastic. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, can I like mute his feed and just listen to Forsland? That would be great.
Well,
as Mike said, though, if he's trying to get himself fired, he's doing a heck of a good job, because honestly, if he gets removed from these games, he's removed, period, in my opinion.
Yes.
There's no coming back. There's no, we get back to normal, I'm going to want to be back. No. You're playing a very dangerous game, and there are lots of people who wouldn't mind having your position. Right. And given the fact that not many people particularly enjoy your analysis to begin with, you're really setting yourself down a slippery slope here that's not going to end particularly well for you.
They've got enough people right now between Anson Carter, AJ as well. There's enough people there that I think can fill in. Now, again, it goes to what Eck is saying here, that they probably look again at Milbury and say, he's the perfect, curmudgeonly foil.
Yeah.
That, for the old for fans who just don't like the way things are played right now.
Right.
And he's the voice of the voiceless, so to speak.
Right. We need that troll. We might.
Speaking of a lack of enthusiasm, let's talk about the Washington Capitals, because
Good segue, Michael.
They lose 4-1 in a dreary 4-0 loss to the Islanders. I mean, the Islanders get the 2-0 lead in the second period, and I think you could have ended the game right there, because I didn't really see much effort from the Caps. And I mean, we'll talk about the game first, but I don't think we really should waste a lot of time with that. We should talk more about, I think, the post-mortem of the Capitals. But I mean, the Islanders played Barry Trotz hockey. They shut it down. They get the goal from Beauvillier. They get the second goal from Beauvillier, and the game was over with at that point.
Yeah, I look at it as the Islanders took away their will, and I knew they were in trouble when the best the Caps could do was, after Beauvillier scores a goal, is Wilson hits him in the head, and I knew at that point they didn't have much left. Now, I felt like Backstrom was getting better as that game went on, and at least that line was doing something, but it was a problem. The Islanders had their game. They knew what they needed to do to win. They were all on the same page, and they weren't going to be denied. This Caps team is just a disaster now, because now they're in between on a lot of things. So, and that showed.
I just thought, to me, look, the Islanders prevented them from breaking out, which is something they've done. We've talked about before, right? We're not sure if Reardon was the right guy. He didn't adjust the game plan at all to try to look. They won game 4. They didn't play great, but they won game 4 mainly because Ovechkin just carried them on their back. He didn't adjust the game plan. He didn't adjust the breakouts. He didn't do anything. The Islanders kept with the same format and style. And as you said, to me, I thought Washington, when it was 2-0, completely quit. I thought they threw in the towel and said, you know what, we're down 2-0. We're not coming back from this game, just like even though we came back in game 4, and we're basically willing to go home. And to me, that goes on the coaching staff, and that goes on the motivation to be there, and the inability to adjust. We talked a couple times whether or not Reardon's the right guy. He sure as heck didn't show in this series at all that he's the right guy for this job moving forward.
And I would also add his commentary after the game, which is like, that's not who, he almost throwing the players semi under the bus in his comments in the post game. To me, the Caps again played a grand total of two good periods in a 5-game series, and that all happened in game 4. To me, watching them and how they played, they again, Reardon, I don't believe is the right coach for them. I guess they thought potentially it would be a smooth transition from going from Trotz to Reardon. It's become very obvious right now that Washington has to make some strong considerations as to who they are going forward. Ovechkin obviously will still be there because that's not many of the young players, but they have a lot of things to consider going forward. The possibility that they may lose Braden Holtby this offseason. Right. Is Samsonov ready to play, here in the NHL on a regular basis as a starter? That's, a lot of the Capitals' confidence in how they play generated off how their goaltender goes.
Yeah, that's a good question. They need Samsonov. I think he's ready. I don't know what the injuries were like from the ATV, so it's hard to say. But if that didn't really affect him, they've got to go that way. I would not put any money into Braden Holtby if I were them.
Well, let's break it down here, starting with the goalies, because I look at this situation. I don't think Holtby's going to be back because he's going to be looking for a long-term deal, probably in the $5 to $6 million range. He's not going to get it from them because they're tied up against the cap. Russ, I think they could end up going for one of X favorites.
There you go.
Yep.
Hey,
one of X favorites, like Thomas Greiss as a 1B to back up Samsonov, so Samsonov could play, say, 50 games and Greiss could play 30, and they probably get Greiss for around $3 million rather than spending long term to get Holtby on a contract for $5 or $6 million.
I don't think they're going to spend anything on goalie. I think they're going to go with Vanacek, and I think they're going to go with Samsonov. I don't think they're going to spend the time on goaltending. I think they're going to spend it on defense. I think that's where they're going to spend their money.
Well, that's kind of the impression I'm getting too. That that if they don't bring Holtby back, which they still might, but if they don't, I mean, I don't know why they would bring Holtby back.
Well,
but
they had Brendan Dillon at 50%. He's going to go free agent. Gudis is going to go free agent. Mm-hmm. They were not happy with Nick Jensen. If they could move him, they would. But
he's become their Andy McDonald.
Yes.
He's become their Andy McDonald.
But he's only $2.5 million as opposed to $5 million. So I mean that's at least
that's true.
But
in terms of the whipping boy status, I would say that
correct.
He's there.
So that leaves them. That leaves them Carlson, Orlov, and Kempney, and then you have 3-4 spots to fill. And I mean, I don't know, Russ. I mean, I'm looking at their minor leagues. And Alexiev, who was, I believe, their first round pick from a couple years ago.
He's a forward.
Yeah.
Michael also.
Lucas.
Volkov. I'm thinking Volkov from Tampa. You're right. Alexiev's not.
Yeah, no, and
Michael though is going to have a shot at breaking camp with this team next year.
Yeah, but I'm talking
blue line.
Blue line.
But like Lucas.
Yeah, I don't think McMichael's ready.
He hasn't really shown a lot of progress.
No,
Ryan,
they're going to have to get one or two blue liners, but they're going to definitely get rid of Gudis. But they're going to need help there, and
Gudis is all but everybody's amazing how people are putting Gudis on Toronto, right? Like every which way. Like he's
I don't know if that's going to be a fit either, but I would say that I could see if Washington dumps Holtby and gets a little bit more space that they could be in the Pietrangelo sweepstakes, because that's the kind of team where if he joins that team, you could make the argument that could get them back to the cup. And I think that's the kind of thing he's going to be looking for in free agency. I don't know if Gudis with the Leafs is a fit, to be honest.
I think I would say Gudis can fit, I think, but he can't be your primary defensive.
That's not gonna be the thing that fixes a team.
He can't be the main guy. Now, if you're getting him as if you're saying it's on top of Pietrangelo and adding Gudis, then I think we're talking. But that's a lot. But then the Leafs have to consider.
You know what happens here, Anthony? Though he goes to the Leafs, they say, "Oh yeah, he's going to be a third pairing guy," and before you know it, they've got him on the second pair, and you can't do it with him. You can't.
Well, okay. Putting off the Leafs and talking about the Caps. The Caps have $10 million in cap space. So, and that's with Holtby not coming back. So either if they have Vanacek or if they have Phoenix Copley as their backup goaltender, they could conceivably go with Samsonov and not spend any money on goaltending. But they're like Toronto in the sense that look, listen to the salaries. Ovechkin 9.5, Kuznetsov 7.8, Backstrom. Next year, the next season, the 9.2 on the extension. Ocean 5.7, Wilson 5.1. That's your top 5 forwards. You're spending way too much on your top 4 or 5 forwards and not enough on your blue line, and that is a recipe for frickin' disaster.
It really is. It is. They're old too. They're the oldest team out there. Like when you look at it. When you look at the ages of all the teams in the playoffs, all the top 20 of the 24 top teams, they were the oldest average age team. They're just
and they're spending good money on guys who I think have seen the better end of their career. I mean, $275 on Hagelin, $275 on Richard Panik, $1.5 million for 3 more years on Garnet Hathaway. Oh my God!
Yeah, right, exactly.
But
that's a lot. I mean.
Go ahead.
I mean, the two things. One is what kind of contract does Vrana get in another year or so when he becomes an RFA, especially if he continues the upward growth. So we're looking at probably, $5 million a year, maybe $4 to $5 million a year. And then obviously the overarching question is will Alexander Ovechkin be back in another year when his contract expires, or if he goes overseas? If he goes overseas, this Cap team is in a whole heap of trouble.
Yeah, but I think that's why I don't think they look at Vrana for 2 years. They're not going to worry about anything but next year right now. That's really
you're probably right. They got one window basically.
Right.
But they have a lot of salary that's tied up well beyond.
Yeah, they're
next
also
year.
in
If you look at all the deals, they expire several years down the pike.
They're in the same situation, I think, as the Pittsburgh Penguins have been in the last few years, basically. They're trying to extend the window on their superstar player as far as they can. There'll be a little bit of can kicking down the road, but again, eventually it's going to catch up with them in one form or another. So the window for the Caps, which already seems to be closing, we're going to see next year just how far potentially it has closed.
But they have,
what it is? They're finally their prospect area is finally starting to dry up a bit, and that's where they're now facing trouble, and especially on the blue line. So that's where, and before they used to be able to get away with it. I think this is where, when they got rid of Bowie, it hurt them.
Yeah.
And they have over $5 million in contracts that they would love to get rid of and basically take nothing back in Jensen and Panik, and they probably won't be able to get rid of them because they're not that good anymore.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is just winning a Stanley Cup. You win a Stanley Cup, you're going to end up with some of these contracts, and you want to return people. That's what happens. So every team that wins a cup has 2 or 3 bad contracts to show for it.
But
I think you can give Siegenthaler a bigger role though, because he is a physical defenseman who skates well, and so
I expect Siegenthaler will probably be up.
But do they think that they can keep this group with a different coach and get a better result? I mean, we do know that.
No, I think that's the big issue, Mike. I think you're right. I think Reardon is the biggest, I think, guarantee to be gone.
I mean, we know Laviolette's out there. We know Babcock's out there. We know Boudreau's out there. There are a couple. Gallant is out there.
They're not going to go.
Boudreau, really? I mean, Boudreau,
I don't think. I mean, you never. Here's the thing. What was the relationship between Ovechkin and Boudreau?
I think it was good.
That's what I'm saying. That could. I mean, they may look at it. I mean, but it will. The problem is the optics.
Right.
Yeah.
With Boudreau, he just has not been able to break through the ceiling, and going back to him, it's going to almost feel like a step backwards.
Yeah, and can we talk why Ilya Kovalchuk should not be in the NHL anymore? Can we continue with that conversation?
Don't worry, Russ. He won't be in the NHL. He'll be in Montreal next year.
Mike, I mean, you can make the Montreal jokes right now, but the Flyers are in trouble.
It's 3-2 right now, Michael. Until this series is over, you got to hold off on those jokes.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But just this about Boudreau, because I wrote about it today, because there's a lot of chatter about him being approached and the Leafs getting permission to talk to him about being an assistant coach under Sheldon Keefe. Obviously, if there's a head coaching job out there, he's going to go after it, and he's going to try to get it, because the money that he would make on a head coaching job would be at least a couple million, and he's not going to make anywhere close to that as an assistant with the Leafs. But there are motivations for him to go to Toronto. His mother lives in Toronto. She's in her late 80s. He has a interest in going into media after his career. That would be the place to go. He's right now he's doing work for NHL Network, so that if he wants
to do a good job with it too. He's doing a good job with it.
Yeah, if he wants to lay the groundwork for that. And the thing is, it's like, he you may overrate this, but he was a former Leaf. He's from Toronto. I've heard interviews with him where basically, like, if I'm not watching the team that I'm coaching, I'm usually watching a Leafs game. So he's big into the Leafs. And
so we went off the Leafs talk, and then we went back to the Leafs talk. See, Mike?
No, I thought it's
center of the universe. It's its own gravity. It's its own gravity well.
It's appropriate at this point. No, I think so too. I mean, let's get into
let's talk about that game last night.
Is there anything worse? I know I actually tweeted it and didn't send it, which is so stupid. Like, later you realize, I tweeted that. That must be really cool, and I didn't send it out. But I tweeted out, is there anything worse than a 3-0 lead? Which is like a couple times now we've seen it, right? That it's just
really only if you have mediocre goaltending, a 3-0 lead is bad.
No, that's true. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, you talk Montreal with Price, the 3-0 lead is fine.
And you have a veteran player with bad impulse control. I mean, I'm sure this morning Brad Treliving wishes that the expansion draft was this October, so he could expose Milan Lucic and hope that Seattle takes him, because
that penalty changed the entire complex. I mean, I'm watching. They're up 3-0.
Yeah,
Dallas looks like they're ready to throw in the towel. Good use of the timeout. Weren't sure if they're going to pull Hudobin. and Lucic just takes a completely ridiculous, unnecessary penalty that totally swings the momentum back to Dallas when they convert. And after that, Katie barred the door. They had no chance in that game anymore, Calgary. Dallas just was all over them.
This is one of the few games where once I saw the lead evaporate and the fourth goal go up, I knew I could shut it off. Like once I saw that Talbot's out and Rittich looks bad, it was over. Like you knew it. And it took this long for Calgary's bad goaltending to show up because we were worried, but then we started giving Talbot credit because he was playing well, and now it finally had showed up at the worst possible time. This is the first time in NHL history that any team has ever done this where they've scored 4 or more goals, being 3 goals down in a playoff game. Like this is historic bad.
Ward got a lot of heat apparently this morning from the Monday morning quarterbackers who were saying, you know, why pull Talbot out at 3-3? And then he apparently, Elliot Friedman was talking about this morning on Toronto radio. Apparently he wanted to go back. He put Rittich in. Rittich gives up the goal pretty quickly. He wanted to go back to Talbot, and Talbot was in the Calgary locker room. They don't know whether he was throwing a shit fit or what was going on. But he was losing his cool. And when Gurianov scored the goal to make it 5-3, Talbot was just coming back from the locker room. So he couldn't go back to him because he wasn't even on the bench yet.
No, I'm sure he, Talbot, this is a very frustrating thing for Talbot. He's a free agent to be. Things are going great, for him. He's having a good run here. He's like up 3-0. He's thinking he's going to be in, the final 8, which is going to set himself up probably pretty nicely. And then suddenly it all falls apart. I mean,
he wasn't playing cards in the dugout like Bobby Bernay.
We'll talk about the way they pronounce the
locker room. Ricky Henderson, get it right there.
Whatever. He was there too.
Go ahead, Hector.
Can we talk about the way you pronounce the goalie for the Dallas Stars? Because like Jen, you said Hudobin. Hudobin. I think it's Hudobin. Jen said it as Hubadan, which I think is like something you get I like four mini Hubadans with like extra icing. They're delicious.
Ask Anna. Ask Anna behind Russ. She'll know.
Yeah, she'll know.
Yeah, so no, I know. I just had some Hudabans the other day. They're delicious. Cinnamon, awesome. Well, anyway, okay. So let's move on to
Wait, hold on.
Couple things here.
Sorry, I've been in for 2 days straight. Been moving my daughter into her college dorm, and without sleep, I am just totally fried. So I apologize for anything I say today.
All right, first on the Dallas side. Thank you, Russ, for telling me to pick Gurianov.
You're welcome.
But Miro Heiskinen could he be the best defenseman in the NHL? The way he's playing right now.
No, I mean he's top 5 in the playoffs right now.
Holy moly! I mean everything that he touched was gold.
I mentioned it last night of watching Heiskinen. I said all we can think back to is 2017, the Hischier Patrick debate at number 1, and now you kind of wonder on both teams, Philadelphia or New Jersey, whether or not they're going to take in either one of Heiskinen or Cale Makar, who came right after,
right,
and how those two players may end up being the best 2 players possibly in that draft, and there were some good players in that draft. But Heiskinen is to me like he has the potential to be the Finnish Hedman. Yeah, that's who he is.
Yeah, he's so quick, and what's good about both of Makar and him, it's just their ability to move the puck up the ice is just great.
He's got 12 points right now.
And they look like the thing about them, they move the puck up the ice like they've been doing it for 20 years.
I know. No, there's really no hiccups. There's no thought, thinking. They're not.
How they do it is astonishing. Like they take the puck and they go. And there's no hesitance. It's not like they're playing with guys that are 10 years older than them like they are. They don't act like that at all.
Their offense is going great, but I still have to tell you, if they think they're going to win with Hudobin, they're not. Because the way he looked on that Goudreau shot on side of the net was something that I've probably never seen a goalie react the way he reacted. It didn't go in, but it could have, based on the way Hudobin was not playing that. I mean, there's going to be some games against Colorado where if he plays that way, there's going to be 7 goals against them.
And this is the thing. Last thing about Dallas, their worst line last night was Radulov, Sagan, and Ben.
Yeah, I mean that's probably going to happen. They just need Bishop. If they don't have Bishop, they're not moving on.
Right,
Yeah.
but I don't think they have a lot of a big chance against Colorado. It could be a longer series. It could be a high-scoring series, but I don't think they have a big chance against Colorado unless Colorado's goaltending becomes a problem.
Or put Bishop in. I mean, I just can't see Khudobin doing
If
it.
Bishop's ready.
If Bishop's ready, I mean,
Well, I mean, he's been backing up, so he has to be able to do something.
well, I mean,
Heiskinen and Clinton, though, they have the ability to get the puck out quickly, as we said, right? So that transition is huge, is what we saw last night. And the only way to kind of counter Colorado is the ability to move the puck quickly up the ice,
Right.
to be able to force them to play defense. But as we said, Colorado's defense is pretty darn good also. I mean, they're probably overall better than Dallas's defense collectively, even though Dallas has two major stars, and Heiskinen is far surpassed Klingberg, even offensively as well. So
Yeah. But they could play heavy.
If Bishop's not in, I don't think they have any shot at all with Bishop. You kind of give him a puncher's chance if Bishop looks like the Bishop of earlier this season.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
and they might be biding time with Bishop. Figuring, okay, we're winning with Khudobin. We'll go with Khudobin in game one. If he wins, we keep going with him, and if he loses, we're buying another 3 or 4 days for whatever. Bishop.
And I can't turn around and say that Khudobin's performance last night was such where if Ben Bishop is ready to go, that I'm not going to go. That I'm not going to go to Bishop. I thought it was a pretty okay performance, but a 3-0 lead against the better team, they're getting buried. The Stars.
Right. Now going to the Flames, Zach. I mean, everybody is saying there's going to be a major implosion in Calgary. It's just a question of where. And this is what we're going to be dining on for the next month.
Yeah, but everybody overreacts about Calgary. Everybody's been saying this for 3 years about Calgary, and somehow they're still a pretty good hockey team because they haven't done that. So I still think it's more Canadian talk than actual things that are going to happen.
Well, I think
yesterday's issues. I mean, we talked a lot about their goaltending, right? And it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Their issues yesterday went way beyond their goaltending because they honestly left both guys out to dry a good part of that game. I mean, Rittich and Talbot would have had to literally stand on their heads because Dallas was just coming in waves, and they were doing very little to stop them from gaining the zone with impunity. I mean, they were just streaming in without anybody stopping them through the neutral zone or the own defensive zone.
The two changes I would make is I would get a real goalie, and this is the time to do it. There could be 3 really good names out there, Markstrom included.
Names out there for sure.
So I would get a good goalie, and I would get rid of TJ Brody.
Well, Brody and Hamonic are UFAs, so they're
okay. So
I
think you lose them both. That's fine.
I mean, I have some names. They're on the rumor chart. I'll show you some of the thoughts I've had on Brody and Hamonic. I'll bring that up for you guys. But they're both definitely available.
Yeah, but I mean, right now they have Anderson, Hannafin, and Giordano under contract. The UFAs are Brody, Hamonic, Forbert, and Gustafson. So they have probably Valimaki coming back.
He'll be back, and that'll be a big difference. He's a big difference for them.
Right. Shillington, I mean, is a borderline NHL, or maybe they give him an opportunity, but maybe he's missed his window. But I think they're going to have to.
I think Kinval gets a shot also because he's a decent puck-moving defenseman, so I think he gets an opportunity also.
The biggest thing that if you want to kill Calgary, why did they ever get rid of Brett Kulak, who looks great for Montreal? Yeah, that's where I think you have to look at.
Yeah, Kulak really does.
And the other one, Jan, is Yellison, the guy they brought over from the KHL.
Yep.
So they may address some of those vacancies internally, but they're probably going to have to add maybe 1 or maybe 2 defensemen. And up front, I mean, it just sounds like, I'm not saying they're going to trade Goudreau and get nothing back for him.
Right.
But they're in the Taylor Hall sweepstakes. They're going to have to move somebody out to be able to pay for it.
Yeah, but that's only if they feel like it's imminent. They're not going to move Goudreau on the hope that they're getting Taylor.
No. They'll wait until they'll
go over the cap on the summer cap, and then they'll do something.
Exactly. They'll have the same mindset that Toronto would have if they were in free agency and they were going to trade Nylander. They're not going to trade Nylander until they got the guy that they want already.
Although this will be the fall cap.
Let's call it the late fall cap. I think I'd agree with that. Or the autumnal cap.
The Indian summer cap.
The autumnal cap. Or the solstice cap. How about that?
The pumpkin spice cap.
No,
yeah, you can't do that because it's too early, according to Russ. We call it the early Thanksgiving cap. How's that?
So far, for Brody, I have a couple teams that I've been tracking with them. Montreal is definitely one of them. He could be joining his buddy in Montreal.
I could see that.
LA has interest in Brody. Toronto.
I'd be surprised at that. I don't know if they're going to dig in for a big free agent.
Rule out Toronto for one reason. He's a left D, even though he can play right D. They already have two left Ds left shots who could play
high
right.
maintenance. Such high maintenance that my Maple Leafs are with this lefty righty thing. You know,
Heck, they have.
I mean, it's like get better defensemen. Can you just get better
They
defensemen?
have one right-handed defenseman with NHL.
That's part of that is because you're so high maintenance on this lefty righty thing.
No.
I mean, I really do feel that at the end of the day, these guys are hockey players. They're professional NHL hockey players.
25 NHL coaches are high maintenance when it comes to left-right break.
Not like this team.
Not like this. Not to this degree. I agree with that.
Team. It's like insane. It's like they give up. They don't even go. They're not even explore the fact that Brody might be able to play the off wing. Like, I mean, it's just like, is it a good defenseman who's available and he can play?
If they're going to spend big money, it's going to be on a right shot defenseman.
If you can get that, but if you can't get that, then you have to start thinking, then maybe we have to go another direction with that.
Well, that's not the way that they're thinking.
I know it's not the way they're thinking. My wife's just come in. How you doing?
No, I'm actually good.
Okay, good. All right.
We'll on the show.
Well, okay, all right, good. We're on the line. We're on the air, but I just thought maybe want to say something. You want to say something, everybody?
Go hockey? I know.
Okay, go hockey.
Go hockey.
I like that. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm.
Like, go to the show now?
Yeah, let's go to the show. You got it. All right, let's go. Let's get out of here.
That's what my wife would say too. So
go hockey.
Now, Mike, I think you are forgetting. I wanted to double check. I mean, I think Liljegren will make the team, and he is a righty. So
I think. Well, I said with NHL experience.
I know, but I knew that's probably what you meant.
Right.
But
he's at best a third pair defenseman to start next year, and
that's fine. But that's why you don't have to get a righty.
Well, they
have him.
They believe that they need to get a righty. So I'm just telling you what their mindset is.
Sure.
But okay, yeah. but all right. So let's talk about Philly, Montreal, and so the couple games tonight.
They're playing tonight? I didn't know.
I love the fact that Elliot Friedman is tweeting out fights between Dave Schultz and Larry Robinson from 1974, or Ed Hospodar beating the crap out of Claude Mew in 87. I love that stuff, and that seems to be what the general feeling is right now.
It really it really has. It went from a series that was putting everybody to sleep, you included, Michael,
yes.
And all of a sudden everybody's paying attention now, and of course, again. Everything was escalated today, starting with Marc Bergevin being "quote unquote" disappointed in Alain Vigneault, making comments about a player who now again, "quote unquote," has to eat his meals through a straw right now.
Right.
And Brendan Gallagher, and then of course we follow it with, and Vigneault being pretty defiant, pretty resolute in his English comments. His French comments were even more interesting, according to former Hockey Buzz writer.
He just wants to get on the front page. Hold
on, let's get the quote here. Let's get the quote here. So this is from Eric Engels, former Hockey Buzz writer, now with Sportsnet, of course. Alain Vigneault took it up a notch in French. I don't know if he aggravated his injury through force of speaking to us and the officials. I'm not a doctor. I can't say. What I can say is I commented on what I saw. I saw a guy who got up and his jaw didn't stop moving for 5 minutes.
Right, but this is all stemming back to Derek Stepan too, when Vigneault was the coach and Gallagher was the guy doing it then. And obviously Vigneault has a hate for Gallagher, and he wants to get on the front page of the press. I mean,
more importantly, right now, let's get into what this really is. It's a strategy. If he can get the Habs right, here's the thing: Claude Julien's not coaching this team right now.
Right,
Kurt Muller, and it's going to be he's creating a difficult situation now for Muller to try to get control of that room. They're going to see that comment.
Yeah.
And you got to worry about a team running around, taking unnecessary penalties and making mistakes and trying to get retribution in an elimination game. They're testing the maturity level he's testing the maturity level of the Habs. This is what it is right now. This is escalation, intentional escalation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it started yesterday. It started initially yesterday. We all know, starting with the social media video on super slow-mo. Not to say that Matt Niskanen was not wrong for the hit that he took on Gallagher. He was. But that being said,
I think any team does this now, though. I don't think this is just the Canadiens.
No, I'm not saying it's just the Canadiens, but
no, I'm not saying you are, but others were. Others
Yeah.
were saying it like this is just Montreal. Nobody else does this. Everybody does this now.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the way it is. And they're going to use especially in a playoff series, you're going to use every possible tool necessary. And this is just a new front on an old war.
Right.
No, it's a really good point. It is. It's and it's just pretty. It's pretty funny. I mean, not funny, but like I do like the concept of he breaks his jaw and doesn't stop talking for a long time after that. Anyone else who broke their jaw would be in agony and not be able to speak. I like that. I like that idea.
But Gallagher's mouth would be running 5 months after he's dead. So I mean, I don't find it.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, it's good. It is interesting, and this is why sometimes experienced coaches are a good thing in the NHL. Honestly, I mean, this is what you want to see out of Vigneault. This is like this kind of stuff. He's not embarrassed or ashamed to make kind of what he knows is a ridiculous thing to say, but he's putting it out there, like you said, to just make the whole thing go crazy.
Warfare.
Yeah,
it's psychological warfare.
It's Sun Tzu style, baby.
Yeah,
I
really is. No, the biggest.
And on top of it, a coach. I mean, how many players on that team did Vigneault coach? I mean, not many, probably, right? At all, if any.
It's been a while. I mean,
it's been a long time.
Carey Price, maybe.
I'm not even sure.
Yeah. It's just Carey Price. So,
but
he is a Montreal coach, and and he is a French-speaking coach. So, and there's Montreal media there. So he's going to do French interviews. Vigneault's going to do interviews in French, right? Because we all know that works, like the French press conference and the English press conference.
So
right?
he's going to do John Tortorella in French.
Well, the initial question went from John Liu. John Liu was the initial question about whether or not, and John pretty much walked him into it by stating, giving him quote unquote the opportunity to walk his statement back from yesterday.
Yeah.
So he's basically telegraphing to Elaine, do you want to walk back what you said yesterday?
But
that wasn't happening.
Accomplishing too much on this show. I don't want to talk about Vigneault anymore. Let's actually talk about the game, because I think the biggest worry for the Flyers is without Heiskinen with Provorov.
Yeah.
I don't believe that they're going to juggle guys all game, but if that's what they're going to do,
they have to. Vigneault already said that.
That is a dumb game plan. That is dumb.
Or if he isn't doing that, then it's a case where, again, it depends on the situation. If it's regular shifts versus what he has out on the power play versus penalty kill, that's a different story. I do think there will be at least one defenseman. I think what will happen is early in the game, he's going to take a look and see who looks like they're grafting themselves.
Right.
That's to Provorov, and then keeping it as an open-ended thing. Plus, it also takes away from Montreal's ability to kind of match up immediately with whoever they're looking potentially to have against.
Yeah, but I still worry about the Flyers' defense because Heiskinen was a definite calming influence on Provorov.
But here's the thing: he was not, again, in this series. Heiskinen has not. I don't want to
Even
take
if he wasn't playing great. We don't know
during the season that was true. I don't think he's been that in this series.
Yeah, I still think
he hasn't been in this playoff. He has not had a good performance.
But the story of the series, guys, has been that Myers and Sandheim are the number one pairing.
They've
They're
been
the number one
pair.
pairing. They're the number one pairing for the Flyers.
Yeah,
there's no debate about it, right?
You can't make them the number one pairing, though. That's the problem.
But they've been utilized in many ways in that circumstance. They've been used a good bit. But the thing is,
Gostisbehere is in.
Yes,
right.
This is in. So that'll be my gut feeling is I think the pairs, at least to start, if we're going 5-on-5 here. I initially thought, there's a possibility. I think Myers, they might put Myers up, but I wonder if Elaine is hesitant to break up that pairing, and you see probably maybe Braun fitting in there because you have the veteran. It'll be basically a veteran swap there. And that's
now you're going to raise Braun's minutes. That's why I hedged away from that on Sirius. I'm like,
but then how else are you going to do it in this circumstance? Again, at the end of the day, Provorov's doing 30 minutes in this game. Probably.
I know. I would rather use Myers than Braun.
In a one game window, I think Vigneault goes with experience rather than with Braun as increasing his minutes than going another way.
I think they're going to be. I don't see Hegg being moved. I don't see Hegg being moved. Moved up. Hag won't be moved up the top pair. I don't see that happen. I think he's very effective in the spot that he's in. So he second. No. I think he's probably. I think he's third. I think right now they probably third. And I think when everything kind of shakes out, it'll be Ghost and Hag on the third pair most likely. They'll try Braun. They'll see how he looks. maybe they put it again. I think it's an open thing where whoever looks like in the game looks like they're grafting themselves to Provorov the best is the one that's going to be in there the most. So they're going to have to be doing their thinking on the fly for sure.
Well,
And the question is,
when I say that Ghost has the most experience playing with Provorov.
He does, but the problem is in the circumstances that you have to worry about the overall defensive comportment of that unit. And unless Ghost has not been, Elaine spoke well of Ghost in the press conference today, but it's still a case of I worry about, anybody who's going with Ghost. I have my concerns about covering for him on the back end when he makes his sojourns into the offensive zone and I worry about gap control more than anything.
I do worry about that. I would say if Ghost isn't having a great game and all of a sudden Braun's got to play 20 minutes, I'm really worried because he doesn't play more than 14 or 15 now. And I've seen him and we've watched him when he's gotten too many minutes. There's a big difference in Braun.
So then in that circumstance, then it's the possibility where then you have to go away. You have to split up for one game, the Sanheim-Braun pairing, Sanheim-Myers pairing. Play Myers then, even though he's inexperienced in that spot, play him together, although they don't play a lot together.
No.
But you may have to in this circumstance. Or you go with the super pair with Sanheim, and that gets really interesting then. If you're looking for a defenseman that can match playing with Provorov in the upper 20-minute to close to 30 minutes, maybe they do that.
Provorov's getting 29 minutes in this game.
He's absolutely getting that.
And the question on the other side is, now that Gallagher's out, do they go back? Do they insert? Now, I'm assuming a guy like Domi increases his role, or they move somebody up to replace Gallagher in the top six. But do they put in Weiss? Do they put in Brian Paling, who hasn't played yet?
They seem to be negligent in using Paling, so I think Weiss will probably draw in, but I wouldn't do that.
So the other question is one thing we haven't discussed is the suspension itself. Was one game sufficient? We thought one game might happen originally, right? But now you got to compound it with the injury, which doesn't seem to have been taken into account too much in terms of the suspension that was handed out.
I wonder, and this is what I wondered. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, whether or not the Habs' hard push on social media and a lot of the push that they made may have, if their goal was to get Niskanen taken out for 2 to 3 games,
right? Whether
or not that backfired, if that was the intention to have him out for more than a game. That's what I want. I mean, I'm kind of wondering out loud.
I'll tell you what the other thing is, and this is why I'm okay with one game. Everybody's like, but look, Gallagher's out. He's only out because he's out of the bubble. Derek Stepan drew back in after a game with the broken jaw. I would have expected Gallagher to do the same, but he can't because of the rules. That's why I can't give Niskanen more of a penalty than I would have given him before based on the COVID rules. I can't do it.
How much did Pruss get when he ended up hitting Stepan? I thought it was more than a game.
It may have been. I got to look it up. I don't know.
I think it's more than a game. I thought it was at least a 2-game suspension, if I remember correctly.
He also had a lot more on his
there for Game 6 because you saw the handshakes between the two sides.
Yeah, but he had a lot more on his docket than Niskanen does on his. That's the only thing.
There's no question, but still, the hit was a dirty hit. There's no question about that.
Yeah. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, we watched it there for a second.
I know what happened there. Yeah, it suddenly just popped off. I'm like, what the hell happened?
All right. Well, let's talk about the other game because that'll be the I believe that's the first
2 games Pruss got.
Right, that's what I thought. So,
but he also had a bigger.
And they take that into. I hate to say it, they say it right in the video. They look at your history, and he had a fine Niskanen, not a suspension prior to this. So.
Thankfully, the NHL, the 8:00 starts gave me like flashbacks to Hockey Night in Canada back in my youngin' days when they started those games at 8 and they ended at like 10:45. But tonight's Flyers-Canadiens is at 7:00, and Game 6 of Blues-Canucks. Now I haven't seen anything yet, but I would be shocked, Russ, if they don't go back to Bennington.
Me too. I mean, at the end of the day, Craig Berube can't go down with the ship with Jake Allen there. He just can't do it. It's a bad look. I think it's bad.
Unless there's something going on behind the scenes, and then in that circumstance. But otherwise, I agree. It should be.
Yeah, because look, I even brought it up again on Sirius where, Jake Allen's dad brought up that, like, hey, Jake would like to come back. You can't go down with Jake Allen as the guy. You got to try Bennington one more time. He won a cup for you. If he doesn't have it, then you're in trouble. But if he does have it, then you're back in the series. That's the only way, because Vancouver has really done a great job here, and I'll tell you, they're definitely playing better than I thought they could, and they're definitely capable of closing this game out. So it is going to take something great by Binnington, and also someone on the St. Louis side, like, that major offensive explosion we saw from Dallas. St. Louis has to do that. They're going to have to do that this game.
Yeah, Edler is supposed to be back for Game 6.
Right.
So that there was thought that he might miss that game, but I think that would have been a big loss for them if they.
Oh, would have been, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. That series has really struck me strange, because I thought once it got 2-2 and St. Louis seemed to be on track, that they would not roll over the Canucks. But the Canucks are a younger team, but they've been fairly resilient, and they have gotten the goaltending from Markstrom that has propelled them to within a game of advancing.
I mean, St. Louis looked to be in control in Game 5, right? I mean, they had the lead. They seemed to have all the momentum, and almost in the blink of an eye, it flipped, which has been kind of the story of this playoffs. We've seen
it really has been
teams that have had 2-3 goal leads, and all of a sudden you look up and that lead's gone and the momentum is completely switched. And once that momentum switches, that original team isn't getting it back anytime soon.
You just can't feed, again, depending on the situation, if you're quote unquote the home side or not, it's difficult to sort of, when you don't get that reaction, it's just it's a weird circumstance.
The whole bubble thing is weird. Some teams, there is a mental component where some teams are taking it better than others, and we see that. And it's not to use excuses, but like when the Islanders are definitely excelling in the bubble, good for them. They're right now, it's not bothering them at all. Where you could see other teams, like, I wouldn't say it's bothering them, but I would say you're not seeing their best play probably as a result. And so it's hard to say. Like, when we're going, a lot of times when we're given analysis, we're going off of what we've seen in the past. We have to admit there's things happening in this bubble, in these games, that we have never seen before, like I pointed out like in the last series. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Just a couple news and notes here. As we talked about the Blue Jackets yesterday, Jarmo Kekalainen confirmed it today in his season-ending media availability. Brandon Dubinsky most likely will not play again because of this wrist injury that he had that kept him out all year. So that opens up $5.85 million on long-term injury. That probably will enable them to be able to fit a new contract for Pierre-Luc Dubois, because he's an RFA at the end of this year. They have now, I think they have like around $11 million in cap space. It's a question of how long, coming off the ELC, they'll want to get him signed for, whether it'll be for, a couple years for a bridge deal, or they go long term. And if they go long term, I think, Russ, it's going to be in the neighborhood of what at least Ryan Johansson got from Nashville, but more likely Matt Duchene got from Nashville, or you're getting up into the Jack Eichel territory.
Yeah, I could see that. I do want to mention one thing about Dubinsky. I felt like he's had a really nice career, probably, I think, even overachieved a little at times. I know the Rangers paid him a lot at the beginning, so fans used to look at him through a different lens, but he was a pretty effective NHLer. And I have to say, nothing was more enjoyable when the Rangers would play the Flyers and him and Richards would just go at it because they hated each other. And that was good for, 3, 4, 5 years with Dubinsky and Richards. That was good stuff.
It was. It absolutely was. They used to go hammer and tong. They hated each other.
They did.
Question.
Now, I don't know much about this player, Russ, but I'm just looking at some of the things here. And the Penguins have signed a college free agent defenseman named Josh Maniscalco. Do you know anything about him?
Yeah, Maniscalco I've heard of. What team again?
I'll find out here. Hold on a second.
Yeah, because I know the name. If you say the team, it might jog me without having to look up, because I'm not going to be able to spell that name and look at my notes.
Let's see here. Arizona State.
Arizona State. I did see Arizona. 2 years ago when I saw Arizona State live, they actually had a better defensive core than I thought they would have. If I'm remembering him correctly, he's a pretty good offensive defenseman. I do have notes right to the right of me. Keep talking. I'll find it.
Yeah, well, okay. What we're looking at now, because the picture in the West is fairly clear. Vegas is advanced to the second round. Dallas, with their win, will play Colorado, and Vegas will play the winner of St. Louis and Vancouver. So, if it's Vegas, Vancouver, I'm not taking anything away from Vancouver. I just thought St. Louis was going to win this series, and I thought St. Louis Vegas would be a very tough series for Vegas because St. Louis has got that experience, and I think they're a really deep team. Vegas, I think, will be heavily favored, Anthony, if it comes to Vegas Vancouver. I think they'll be significant favorites.
Yeah, I would think there would be significant favorites in that series. And again, this is nothing against Vancouver, but they have to – it's going to be difficult. It's just so much depth on that Vegas squad, especially up front. Defensively, they're a better team. Goaltending, they can match, I think. I mean, unless if Bishop play – not Bishop, I'm sorry. If Markstrom versus Leonard, I think, is maybe close to a push the way Markstrom's played, but it's just really – it'd be tough.
Here's what I wrote about Maniscalco. He is a really good skating defenseman. He's 6'1", 200. He played on their top pair. They definitely moved the puck well. I don't think he's got like elite offensive skill, nothing like that. But, he can get some points. And so this is, again, we have to give credit to the Penguins. They got Marino, who was a really good offensive defenseman in college, and now they probably got another guy that they could work with that can play for them, and that's how they're going to have to do it.
And in the East, everything rides on this Montreal-Philadelphia series. If Montreal comes back and wins, they would play Tampa, and Boston would play the Islanders. If the Flyers win, it would be Flyers, Islanders, and Boston, Tampa.
See, I think this is going to go to 7. But I do think the Flyers will win when they get Niskanen back. I think this game's going to be a little bit looser than they'd like it to be without Niskanen, and I think it could go to 7. But I do think they're going to win. Again,
I am going to disagree. It already was loose with him being in it in Game 5, Russ.
I know.
And I honestly think at this point now, I think there's.
Do you see it tightening up? I don't see it tightening up.
I think they can. Yeah, I think they have capability of tightening up. The key thing is, of course, I think how Gostisbehere plays in the minutes that he's given, how they set up, how they deploy their D pairs, and also with their players with the understanding that you're going to have to bite back a lot harder. And also, they also probably need, a better goaltending performance out of Carter Hart than they got in Game 5. Hart's performance was not up to what it's been in the series, although it's difficult, obviously, when you're coming off 2 shutouts like that.
All right, so we do have breaking news. Anthony, you posted in the chat room.
Yep.
That the NHL has responded about Mike Milbury, and now Greg Wyshynski is reporting that he's off the broadcast, but we're hearing that secondhand in the chat room. So maybe there's a chance.
I think he finally stepped on the wrong grenade here. We're going to see what happens here. Who the new color, whether or not they just go with Boucher tonight and whoever, and I don't know if it's Forsland covering it.
I can tell you who it won't be Jeremy Roenick.
Well, we know it won't be JR. But it'll be interesting to see again.
Tom Brenneman.
If this is true and he's being pulled off exactly. But that's play by play in this circumstance versus the color guy. But I get your point. But I gotta wonder now if he's being pulled off the broadcast. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning. It was a dumb way of going about it, but he's to me, he sent off signals throughout this thing that he doesn't look like he wants to be there.
Yeah.
But the problem is now he's going to potentially sink his whole what he's been able to do for his career. But again, this has been building up over time, and when you alienate potentially 50% of your fan base with a comment, you get what's coming to you.
Maybe he keeps his job with Nesson because they keep Jack Edwards hired. So what Yeah,
Wyshynski did tweet it. I double checked it, and so the guys in the chat room are right. And it wouldn't shock me. I would not want him on the national broadcast tonight either because, again,
the thing is he's not going to get. Here's the thing: you lose it on the national. As Mike said, you lose that. If this was your way of losing it, you're not going to get onto an analyst desk again.
I don't know. He's in the bubble. They may still use him.
I don't know. They may. I wouldn't be shocked. They have enough people right now, I think. You got Carter. You got Adrian Miletko. You've got enough people, I think. You've got Patrick Sharp. They have lined up their analysts in a spot here. They have Keith Jones. They've lined up their analysts just fine in terms of now, could they be sending somebody up? And again,
I said in the bubble. I don't think he's in the bubble. Sorry.
He's not in the bubble.
He's not.
Well, Sharp. Well, no, I think Milbury is in the bubble. He's in Toronto.
Milbury is in the bubble.
He is in Toronto. He
Yeah,
is in the
Okay,
bubble.
so he's in the bubble. So
They've got a 3-man team, but you're now putting
Sharp and Carter and all these guys are in Stamford.
they're in
Right.
Stamford. They have that, but I'm talking about in terms of in the future
Yes.
with that desk, with that many people that
in
they've
the
already
future
put into
he's done,
play.
but I don't know if he's done yet. If he's in the bubble,
If he's being taken off the broadcast for tonight,
But remember though, now you're going to have. I mean, now there's only one series of the.
there's less games.
There's us games, so they can sort of compartmentalize their.
you have a 3-man. Right now, they have a 3-man unit, correct?
Right, and Pierre is in Edmonton.
Pierre's in Edmonton, and you do have Boucher. You just may be putting Brian Boucher.
You may be putting more on his shoulder.
You're putting Bohr on his shoulder, which again, we see how well prepared Brian is.
Yeah.
He's outstanding. So I have no doubt if Forsland's calling it and Boucher's got it, that they'll be
From in
perfectly
between the
fine.
bench.
Matter of
Yeah.
fact, you may get more out of the damn.
That's how Pierre does it.
You
Pierre's
get more out of the broadcast, I think.
yeah.
A couple quick notes
I mean,
here. Couple quick notes, and we'll end the show. Mark Spector reported yesterday that it's not done, but the Oilers and Jesse Puljujarvi have had a dialogue, and that they expect that there will be a contract signed and he'll be with the Oilers in the fall. The only reason I could see this happening is he has an opportunity to play with McDavid and Draisaitl to post numbers and get the hell out of there after the way he's been treated.
Or it's a sign and trade. Like it's just
Or
he's signing so he can get the hell out of there. Either way.
Right.
I think it's a sign and trade, actually.
Yeah, it may very well be. And lastly, Nazem Kadri, after eliminating the Arizona Coyotes, was asked how does it feel to move to the second round, and he responded, "That's a first for me." Yeah, Naz, you want to know why it's the first time for you? Because it was your fault.
Every year?
No, but him getting suspended against Boston.
You're bringing too much Leafs into this. He is
He
giving a
does.
personal. Hold on. He's just giving.
fault.
No. He is giving a personal reaction. He is, and you took it to right into the Leafs Nation there, where he didn't go. He didn't go there.
I'm sorry. He has a lack of. He had quote past tense a lack of impulse control to be able to play hockey in a smart way and get suspended.
So what happened, Michael? Going to Colorado? Is it the thin air in Denver?
It must be.
It must be. It mirrors everything. He went to the Springs. He's in the mountains. He breathes the fresh air.
It helped Doc Holliday. Apparently,
Cleared
Nazem Kadri
Cleared
too.
his head.
Doc Holliday, really?
Look at a Doc Holliday reference. Oh, goodness gracious.
All right. Thanks to Eklund, the mobile Eklund. Thanks to the departed Jan Levine. Thanks to Anthony Mangione and Russ Cohen. I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the